Hi, I'm Katie, host of Focus and Flourish podcast. I used to grind nonstop until I figured out how to automate my systems that ended up helping me achieve a 4-day work week. Now I earn more and work less. Want to do the same? Grab my free 6-figure strategy guide, which is the exact blueprint I used to grow my own business to where I am today. Link in the show notes. Are you new here? Tap subscribe to support the show and never miss an episode. Hello and welcome. This is the very first episode of Focus and Flourish, and I'm so grateful you're here. Before we dive into all the marketing strategies, systems, and scaling frameworks that are going to absolutely change your life, I do want to slow down and start at the beginning. You know, I want you to feel like you can trust me. And so I'm going to share a little bit more about my story and the ups and downs before we dive in. So I have spent the last 17 years building a multi-6-figure sustainable photography business that has not only weathered recessions, but also thrived through them. I launched my business in the summer of 2008, and within 2 to 3 years, we broke into the luxury market. I have led an incredible team for over a decade, coached photographers for roughly 10 years, and served over 800 clients. We have won awards. We've been voted one of the top professional wedding photographers in the US since 2014, and we've been published in Martha Stewart, San Francisco Magazine, Modern Luxury, Brides, Junebug Weddings, and commercial publications like Venue Lust and Shutterfly. So my brands, Create Photography and Katie Monroe Photography, are both built on strategy, systems, and a lot of heart. So I'm here to help you create a business that supports your life, not the other way around. I want to share my story with you, the real, raw version of my story, the one with the really late nights, burnout, so much motivation, and a lot of lessons learned. Because if you're feeling overwhelmed, unsure of your next move, or like you're doing everything alone right now, I absolutely get it. I've been there, and I want you to know there is a way out, and there is another way to do things. There's a way to build the business and the life that you dream about, but sometimes the overwhelm can be really, really crippling, right? So when I was younger, I started painting at a super young age and eventually photographing in film. I started developing film in the darkroom at 8th grade. I was in 8th grade, and this is so long before content creation was even a thing. I interned at National Geographic and worked for production companies in the Bay Area, kind of getting a front row seat to the reality of the industry, the deadlines, the hustle, the complexity of what it was going to take to actually have it be a career and not, my side hustle. So it was 2007, and I flew down to Guatemala with my Aunt Sue, who was an incredible wedding photographer, and I shot my first wedding with her, and I felt it, the connection, the emotion. It was so magical, and I knew it was something I'd be good at and I could do, and I didn't feel anxious or stressed out by the experience, which isn't always the case, in the wedding industry. So I thought if I just worked harder, I'd make it, right? And in some ways I did. I booked weddings. I delivered beautiful galleries. Clients were happy. We were getting great reviews, right? But behind the scenes, I was working, like 60 hours a week, nights, weekends, holidays. I always had my laptop open, and I honestly just thought that was how it was supposed to be. And so I kind of told myself a story that this is what I had to do to pursue a creative career. And that was honestly just a story I made up in my head because I wanted to be successful. I was scared of failure, right? So in 2015, I hit a pretty big wall. So this is 10 years ago. I had been really doing it all myself for about 7 years. I had great second shooters, and I had hired one assistant in 2013 that didn't work out. So I think I was feeling a little shaky there. But honestly, I was just so burnt out on post-production, editing everything myself. I was doing all of the client management. I was wearing so many hats. And honestly, it just started to take away from my creativity and my happiness. And that was, a decade ago. There wasn't as much technological innovation, but also Lightroom existed and we had my preset and all of those things, but it was a lot of manual work. So not raising my rates soon enough kept me really stuck in a cycle of more weddings, more clients, more hours. And I really didn't think I could raise them at the time. And again, that was just a story I'd made up in my own mind. And at one point, my husband, who at the time we weren't even engaged, he was just like, "You're always working. You're always on. Close your laptop. Let's watch a movie." And it kind of crushed me because it was a reflection back that, he was right. I was totally in a cycle of being a total workaholic. I had no boundaries. And that's when I realized that this is not why I started this business. I didn't dream of having this level of success and having no energy to do anything else. And so it was a big reality check for me. And it really did change everything. Just the reflection back and then kind of getting out of denial and in my own heart of like, this isn't working. This doesn't feel right. I had built something where we had a good reputation and the leads were coming in. And so I decided that was the year I said, I am going to build a business that supports the life I want and not the other way around. The first step I took was fully outsourcing my editing. I had dialed in such a beautiful preset that we use to this day. Of course, it's evolved, but I was really committed to a fine art editing style that was incredibly consistent. And so I started fully outsourcing my editing, and I literally felt a weight lifted to let go of control, let someone else come in there with my anchor images. Of course, I would go through the entire shoot and make sure they had everything to go off of. But honestly, finally realizing, okay, I don't need to do this. I have a framework that works. I have a beautiful editing style. That was my aha moment. And so from there, once I felt the relief and the freedom that came from that and simply adding in that cost to my overall prices. So it wasn't even a financial burden at all. And from there, honestly, it was like a snowball effect. I began hiring more help. I built real systems. I hired consultants to, build out a in-depth CRM and workflows and really stop doing everything from scratch and copy and pasting and doing all of those pieces. And that is when, the 2015-16 year, when I stepped into fully running my business and not letting it run me. And so I raised my prices. I was on a sales call with absolutely every lead that came in our door, focusing on client relationships, focusing on really good marketing. And I raised my prices to reflect the true value of what I was offering. So the craziest thing was I was scared doing all of these things, but my business didn't fall apart. It started to flourish. It grew. And our team grew and our prices were consistently going up. And by creating repeatable systems and like a streamlined client experience, I not only reclaimed my time, but I was able to build a team because I was empowered. I was like, there are systems to support me in managing a team and in really replicating what we do over and over again so that these things can kind of be streamlined. That's when I really scaled my wedding photography business to a thriving multi-six-figure brand. And that was my baby. I never thought I would be able to relinquish control in the way I did. And then I silently started building something new. I was so clear, even with all of the automation and the outsourcing and all of these incredible systems. We used Dubsado as our CRM. We used ClickUp for project management. I still knew that I hadn't got engaged yet. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. I still knew there was more work to be done on building a separate brand that was going to give us a separate revenue stream, but also more work during the week. So I could kind of reclaim my weekends, go from, 40 weddings a year to 10, for example. So recognizing how much I loved branding and marketing, I started working on my branding and commercial portfolio. And I launched Katie Monroe Photography, my commercial and brand photography branch of things. And it tapped into a different part of my brain, the strategic, story-driven side. And it gave me a second revenue stream, but also it helped me not burn out in one niche. So I loved the challenge of going in between the two brands, one life, and it felt like mine again. I was like, okay, I've diversified. This feels really good. As I continued to seek out mentorship and educate myself and go to workshops and go to conferences, I started to learn about attracting the right clients and manifesting the right clients and how those two brands had to be separated. And so that is when I really honed in the next year of, okay, I'm really going to make this a real thing. We have separate websites, separate SEO, separate ideal clients, separate audiences, separate email lists, separate Instagram. the list goes on. And I'm sure you can imagine that was obviously a lot of work, but it was very exciting because if I'm honest, I was in my late 20s. I felt like branding could grow with me more once we started a family. Once I had separated the websites and took branding off of my wedding photography website and really made a beautiful brand, very portfolio driven at the time, that was incredible for my business. That's when I was able to establish authority in the branding sector while also maintaining a good reputation in the wedding and lifestyle world. And I was so happy. And so the goal at the time wasn't necessarily to like replace income or anything like that. It was just to replicate all of the systems I'd created in our first business to the second one, knowing I didn't have to do it alone for 7 years before scaling it. Right? Fast forward. Today, I am a mom of 2 amazing kids. Rhea just turned 4 and Levi is 15 months. I love them so much. I can barely even handle it. And becoming a mom really changed everything for me. It really, really, really helped me tap even deeper into staying in my zone of genius, right? Before we even got engaged, I had hired a financial advisor and I started putting $5,000 away a year in 2016 to have a baby. We didn't even get engaged until 2018. So by the time we had our daughter in 2021, even through a pandemic and COVID and all of that, I had a hearty maternity leave saved. So I was able to run most of my business on autopilot, booking things out in advance, while also really getting to like enjoy the first 6 to 8 months of her life. I worked very little during that time. And I planned, I built the systems that it would allow me to keep it running without me there every second. And I didn't go into the biggest decision I've ever made, which is becoming a mother. I didn't just like hope things would work out. I really did set up so much automation, team coverage. I mapped out finances and I was able to be present with my babies. So I do talk a lot about family planning and things like that for women how to prepare for that as a photographer, how to prepare for that in your business and restructure it beforehand. I also restructured my life to a 4-day work week. And if you want to hear that whole journey, it's on my blog. But the year I reduced my hours and got even more honed in, more organized was my highest grossing year I've had in my career. Having 4 really focused days, no busy work, like really taking it seriously. Amazing. It had such a positive effect on my workflow and not getting distracted because I'm at home. So honestly, I was so inspired. Freedom breeds creativity. Boundaries do breed success. Like actually working in your business is so empowering versus just like scrambling all the time and like to-do lists everywhere and editing when you can and staying up late. Like that didn't work for me. And although it was a long journey, it became so clear, right? And yes, there are some weeks where on Friday we'll get a little bit of help from family or whatnot. But mostly it's to spend that time at the time it was with Rhea, just undivided one-on-one mama time all day on Friday before the weekend. And now I'm doing that with our son, Levi, who's still a baby, right? So, wow. And today, my brands are built on the foundation of systems, strategy, and really, really a personal touch to everything. I don't want to hustle through life. I don't want to feel that state of like stressed kind of adrenaline all of the time. It's unsustainable. Over, the last 17 years, my gosh, I've shot close to 600 weddings. We've served well over 800 clients. I don't know the exact number, but the best part is I get to have this career without sacrificing the life I'm building with my family. They are everything to me. And our life is precious. I want to savor every memory. I want to be around for soccer games. I want to camp and travel and explore the world with them. If you're listening to this, I want you to know something. You don't have to be everything to everyone. You don't have to burn yourself out to make it. You don't have to sacrifice every weekend, your sanity, your dreams. You don't have to say yes to every inquiry that comes in your doors either. And you can build a thriving photography business that's sustainable, profitable, and aligned with the life you want to live. So Focus and Flourish exists because I've been in your shoes, stressed, overwhelmed, unsure, like which way to turn or what to work on next. And now I'm here to walk you into the next chapter. So in this podcast, I'm going to teach you how to set up the systems that free you, right? Create marketing strategies that are partially automated, but also attract the right clients, the types of people that you want to work with. Build workflows that grow your income without growing hours. Build in automation to your business. More than you probably think is possible is possible. Establishing yourself as an authority takes time and energy, but it's incredibly important. Working on staying up to date with industry trends. Now we have AI and tech has become so much more prevalent. So we will be staying on top of industry trends for you and bringing that to Focus and Flourish. And most importantly, design a business that feels like an extension of your life and not something that is constantly stressful or inhibiting other parts of your life, right? Freedom is the goal. So I am so excited you're here. Thank you so much for letting me share my story. I cannot wait to dive into all the juicy, actionable episodes coming your way. And you are not alone. You're not behind. You're exactly where you're meant to be. So if this episode resonated with you, it would mean the world if you would either leave a review or share or subscribe and send to a photographer who needs a little less stress in their life. And if you're also feeling inspired right now, head to the show notes and watch my free training called Six-Figure Strategy. It walks you through the exact blueprint of what we did to grow and scale my business multiple times. And it's really inspiring because so much of it is doable for any photographer at any stage in their business. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you all next week. I really don't want you to miss out on future episodes of Focus and Flourish. When you subscribe or follow this podcast on your favorite listening app, you'll be the first to know when new episodes are released. You'll never lose your place in an episode if you need to leave early. So go on, join and subscribe to the community that's committed to working smarter, not harder. Let's scale together.